Champs and Giggles. History, news, views, and reviews from a black perspective.
Season, it is the season, it is the season to be jolly. The summer, the weather today was just adorable, adorable. Summer is on the horizon. The garden parties, good Lord. The staycations, oh my goodness. The what's it when you get on the boat? The boat, what you call them, they're stuck on the Thames there. Lots going on for the summer. It's going to be a scorcher, as has been over the past. Have I hit it? Over the past number of years, we noticed that the weather, climate change is in full effect, and of course, do you need to go to the Caribbean to get the hot sun? Good Lord, the sun over here can be hot, just as hot, but we do like to go away to get the breeze. So yeah, lots going on for this year. This year has been amazing already. It just really has. It's just been, I think the word is special this year so far. Yeah, it's just been special. And so may it continue to be as we go through into the summer. Just too much happening. July 19th is a date for the diaries. We're working on a coach trip to the seaside for all the crew, of course. Just be absolutely fantastic. So there's lots going on. We're working behind the scenes to make things happen. So just provisionally note that date. Just fantastic. Now, interesting as we continue the conversation, because it is a conversation. British boarding schools. Oh, well, there's a couple of things going on. Let's start with this one. This weekend, the 6th of April, does anybody know more about this? I would have liked to have done a bit more research on it. This weekend, can you see that? Have I showed you? This weekend, the 6th of April, we've got a couple of things to discuss. We've already discussed Gangs of London. But this weekend, 6th of April, Windrush National Vigil to be held on Windrush Square, Brixton. So the 6th of April would be on Sunday. So what's that about? The National Vigil to be held on a vigil for what? I'm just trying to catch up. If anybody knows.
It's to pay tribute to the Windrush generation. That's what it is.
Okay. Nigel, your hands up, part of the things.
Yeah, I'm very much on the Gus John side of this thing. This is whitewashing black contribution to Britain. No offense.
What do you mean?
Well, as Gus John, there's been black presence in Britain before the Windrush. And the British government, well, Sam King, you read about Gus John and Sam King, this man who decided to mythologize Windrush. And I'll just say it this way, 80% of people affected by the Windrush scandal have still not received a penny. There are families in this country with people who were deported, claiming they were not British. People lost their job. People had no money, couldn't claim benefits. There's nothing to celebrate. There should be a protest, frankly, a protest.
Right. So therefore, this Windrush Vigil, is it to support those who have not yet been
this whole thing about, it's even as Gus John said, 2018, he got an invitation to go to Westminster Abbey. At the same time, Theresa May was putting those vans all around London, basically go back to where you came from. It's a complete state to we love the people from the Caribbean. Say that to your ancestors who spent centuries indentured, enslaved. Nothing to celebrate yet. That's
so it's a vigil, though. It's not a celebration, is it? It's a vigil.
Of course, it's a celebration.
Of what?
All those people with their British Empire medals and their member of the British Empire are going to be there. And it's actually the British, of course, the Lambeth Council will be there. And actually, as Gus Jones said, he's written a book about it, just published last year. It's a disgrace. And it actually erodes the fact that there have been black people in Britain since the 19th century. And it also erodes the fact that it avoids discussion of slavery and colonization and the greatest genocide that ever happened to mankind, the effects of which are still being felt today.
It's quite interesting how they disguise these things, making it look like an
Of
event
course,
in
Gus
your
John's written a book
favor,
published last year. It's brilliant, a brilliant book.
and they sugarcoat.
So
So
Salvage the Empire Windrush is what it's called. Brilliant book.
this is,
Forensic in his dissection.
and I don't know if this is relevant, right? Because this is BBC talking about the vigil. I assume the vigil is something that's held every year. So this was a post from
This
last.
shameful little Irishman. Yeah, let's listen to him.
Let's see what he has to say.
London, I'm Thomas McGill. A vigil has taken place in Brixton to remember the victims of the Windrush scandal. It's now 5 years since the government launched its compensation scheme, but campaigners say some of those affected have yet to receive justice, as Jessica Ure reports.
Now, why have you come to England? To seek a job. And what sort of job do you want? Any type, so long as I get a good pay.
To seek a job was why they came, but many of the Windrush generation were later plagued by a scandal.
No justice, no peace. No justice.
It's just appalling that their legal rights have not been fully recognised, that they came here to be citizens and contribute. Many people have contributed phenomenally to the modern Britain that we all celebrate, and they've just been dealt a horrible blow by having their rights ripped away from them.
It's now 5 years since the government first launched its compensation scheme for victims of the Windrush scandal. But 5 years on, some people are still waiting for compensation.
Nothing really has fundamental change. Yes, the compensation scheme has been going for 5 years. Some people have been paid out, but a lot of people have not been given the proper financial costs, losses covering what they endured. Remember, obviously, people lost their homes. People got deported, their lives were on hold.
Ross's parents came to Britain in the 60s.
They've always told the story that it wasn't easy and taught me to work hard, twice as hard, to be good enough. And the fact that people are continually suffering, this is totally inhumane. This shouldn't be going on in 2024.
Bishop Desmond supports many people still waiting for justice.
I think the big question for us is, are they listening? And yes, they are. However, I think there is a culture in the Home Office, and it's a historic culture of moving quite slowly. And that's our government move, in all honesty. And I think in terms of the Windrush generation, what we need to ensure is that the priority is given to address engagement in terms of the documentation even more.
The government told us it's committed to righting the wrongs of the Windrush scandal and making sure those affected receive the compensation they rightly deserve. Jessica Ure, BBC London.
Well, there you are. So I imagine that's what it's about, compensation, and the fact that many have not been compensated.
That will be brilliant. Brilliant.
The other thing is, I wonder what sort of coverage it will get this year then. In terms of media, is it going to be something that's growing? Because you think of this Windrush scandal was before the post office scandal. And I think the post office scandal has now been given, I'm not sure if they've been, well, there was a TV drama about it, got the attention of the politicians, so on. They made moves on it. And I think they've gone further along the road with that than they have done with the Windrush scandal. So it'll be interesting to see what comes of it. Certainly as the Black community, we need to do more. There needs to be more talk radio. We just don't have that level of discussion within the community about these things, and it affects all of us. I mean, in one way or other. And it's the funny thing is, you wake up one day you wake up and realize, because that's what happened with them. One day you wake up and realize your rights have been ripped away, and you're like, where do I get help? And they were torn away from their families, removed from the country. Horrible. You know what? You can't even imagine it, really. If you'd have come here from the 60s, you raise your family here, as some of them did, and then all of a sudden you're no longer a citizen, I'll go back, your house get taken. Yeah. So it'll be one for supporting. It's a vigil. It's on the 6th, so that's on Sunday. So our listeners will be on radio by tomorrow, and on Sunday actually. And I guess next week when the Joker Pin, we'll have to do a review next week to see what happened and sort of like just give more commentary on this ridiculous scandal that's going on regarding the Windrush generation. Very, very, very important. Very important. Very important indeed. So Windrush National Vigil. And also, what do they mean by national? Is it just going to be, do you see the Windrush National Vigil is being held on Windrush Square in Brixton. I mean, what happened in other parts of the country was a scandal nationwide. It wasn't just down here. So how far and widespread was it? And you know, how many other areas are going to be involved in putting forth some form of action? Because of course, the government, that's what they're looking for, isn't it? They say politics follows power. If you stand up and speak and they see you ain't got much voice, they no need to listen to you. See, that's why the post office got a bit further. It becomes a television drama. Everybody's watching it. Now the government realize how stupid they are. They look at how many viewers. Oh, millions of viewers. We got to do something. Because obviously that means public votes. The Windrush scandal, if they see 50 people show up, it's not that bad, much of an issue. We're not going to get many more votes by going out there. Why waste? See, I mean, that's what they're going to. So it is important to show support and show up. I hope the those that are there put video posts of it that can be liked and shared and so on to get a real movement going around the situation, such that those of the Windrush that was dealt with it unjustly will get their their due return. A very, very troubling situation, Windrush. And you know the other sad thing about it, that's our parents, isn't it? Many of our parents are moving on. You know, they're moving on, and to be tied up in this scandal, I think if you move on, then what you was due kind of sort of moves on with you. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but that campaign for you is now sort of lost. Look at that. The payout for the Leisure says the payout for the post office scandal was in January of this year. 663 million. Now, what could that do for the Black community that was unjustly dealt with this Windrush? I mean, how many millions are owed to them? You know, Nigel, your hands up. Coming, talk the team.
No, I'm glad now to hear that the vigil is going to be actually campaigning for justice for this victims, because I also think it's not just. This is why I think I agree with Gus John. This whole thing about the Windrush generation, they've renamed it a railway line. You know, the overground Windrush. It sanitizes the whole thing. And I'm thinking of Louise, dear Louise, a friend of mine in this area who died 2 years ago in her 80s. She was the local midwife. And, you know, she came from Trinidad, so not on the Windrush, but that period. And actually, her career, she did well as a midwife, loved in this area, delivered so many babies. But her career, the story she told me of constant racism and belittling and discrimination in the NHS and the community because she was Black. But of course, that generation took it on the chin. They just wanted to survive, did it with great grace and great dignity, and provided an amazing service to this country across all, you know, whether cleaners, tube drivers, postmen, whatever, an amazing service. And this whole, you know, this, I get where Gus John is coming from, and I totally agree with it. The Windrush, it's used now as a sort of, oh, we celebrate the contribution. Yes, but you're actually ignoring the fact that these people, she died 2 years ago in her 80s, her whole career since coming here was one of walking on eggshells, petrified, to step out of line only because she was Black. It's scandalous. The whole thing is, and you're right, actually, with the great post office drama, I hope maybe someone listening to this knows a Black director, you know, show the true story of what happened to the Windrush generation.
Yeah. I mean, you know, really it'll start in the theatre. Yeah. Someone, you know, do such a thing, put in the theatre. And then it just develops and gets, but it definitely needs to get some legs. It does need to get some legs. It does.
And again, does that not show the structural racism in this country? You know, post offices, we'll cover it. It's all the hearings in Parliament covered. Have you ever seen in the news the hearings in Parliament about the Windrush scandal? No, nothing. No, not at all. And again, that goes to me. Again, this is why we have to keep the struggle up, because somehow Black lives don't matter, but we'll name a railway line, we'll put up a statue at Waterloo, and suddenly it feels okay.
Well, they try to make it feel okay.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's this sanitization of the awful, awful treatment these people their ancestors think. I mean, I can't even think of the horror their ancestors faced in the Caribbean, but they came here just to work hard, which they did, and their whole career was littered with discrimination, racism, and they just, walking on eggshells, just wanted to raise their family, do their best. And yeah, she died in her 80s, and happy, joyful woman, but the story of her working life here was not one of pleasure.
Yeah, such is the life of the Black man in the UK. Yeah, Alicia, your hand is up. Talk the things.
Yeah, but I want to add to that, because the thing about it is that we've got to continue talking about the Windrush generation. And remember, it's just, it is as it is, the Windrush generation. It's not saying that that's where Black history started started in the UK. It was just a generation of people that came over at that time. My mum came over during the Windrush years as well. And yeah, there was a lot of discrimination. My father as well. There was a lot of discrimination. But we've got to thank them for their determination and their persistence, and their, that they actually, that generation did a lot for a lot of the laws, the employment laws and just general laws that we have at the moment to help us to where we are right now. And there's still a lot of a fight, but they laid a lot of the groundwork for us. And those that were affected by the scandal, they call it the Windrush scandal. And it's almost, I can get what Nigel's saying, that it sort of smokes over what the real problem was when you say the Windrush scandal, because the Windrush was just the boat, really, a ship that brought over immigrants from the Caribbean to the UK. Rather than actually say exactly what the problem was, which was that these people lost the people who came over on the Windrush were deemed as not British, when actually they were British when they came over, and they lost everything, lost their homes, their jobs, and put them into a lot of debt and depression and what have you. But I think we do need to continue talking about this, whether it's in Windrush Square on a Sunday afternoon with the mayor or whoever it might be, but just continue speaking about it. Otherwise, it gets lost.
Well, that's the thing. And, there's a lot going on regarding it. The spirit of Windrush apparently is even being held in the National Maritime Museum in Greenwich. And as you say, Alicia, the Windrush was just the boat. Now, me never hear about Windrush until recent times, when this whole scandal. So somebody caged this scandal as the Windrush scandal. It was one of the boats that brought Black people to the country, but I'm sure it wasn't the only boat. It wasn't the only mode of transport either, because there were planes flying into the country. I know a lot of people traveled by boat back then, but it's the story behind it is lost in that name, Windrush. And then they put on all these things. So I guess you can think you can miss, and this is what they do. They sugarcoat it in such a way that something terrible has happened. But oh look here, the spirit of Windrush, and then here you got the website at the Royal Greenwich, and look, people are smiling. So you don't think these people were dealt unjustly, a harsh, unjust blow to their livelihoods, to their heritage, to their history. You're looking at the picture, you're not going to think that, are you? You're thinking, oh look, the spirit of Windrush is at join the Maritime Museum for a free family festival celebrating the Windrush generation. So this whole Windrush thing, I'm sure it's because of the scandal why Windrush is really spoke. Because growing up, I didn't know about Windrush. When did you know about Windrush? When did you know about Windrush?
I think some of us were aware of it. Absolutely, some of us were aware of it.
When? That's why I asked the question. When?
Well, if you studied Black history, if you went to a college or university and you studied Black history, you probably would have known about it, or you had parents who told you about what happened back then. Or
yeah, they didn't tell us it was a Windrush. The Teddy Boys would be beating them up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean,
no blacks, no dogs. Yeah, that was signs on the doors. It wasn't attributed to Windrush.
No, but it's just to depict a particular generation. It's like saying,
the government put that name Windrush on it. Theresa May and her cohorts, the scandal, the Windrush scandal, they gave it the name Windrush because we didn't know about Windrush. We just talking about.
Well, isn't it down to Black people to make sure that they continue talking about the effects of Windrush, what it had on the community, Black community, and the people as well, rather than saying, "Oh, we shouldn't be doing it," and it just goes completely dead. Nobody like, "Oh, that's it. We don't want to do it because it's been sugar coated." Like it's down to Black people to take ownership of it and speak about it for what it really was. No?
Yeah, give it the narrative that it deserves, in that we were robbed. Hey, you robbed us, and you're doing all this foolishness for us now. But truth be told, you robbed us, and you have not paid us, and you're doing all this, spending all this money, doing all this thing, educating people about, oh, look at that. No, you robbed us. See, it's a different conversation, isn't it? Tim J, you got your hand up, talk the things. I mean, taking away people's houses,
yeah, so I agree with you, Joseph. The Windrush was a framework that was used by the government to just identify that community. And it's also, it resonates with us as well. We know what people are saying when they say Windrush. But we also know that we were here long before Windrush. But they're talking about a particular impact that was made by a particular cohort of Caribbean diaspora that came here, Caribbean community that came here. And I do agree, we cannot afford to let this slip and slide. But you see, there's organizations like Champs Giggles. There's places like the Heritage and British and the Lottery, HLF, Heritage Lottery Foundation funds. There's lots of pots of money for things, for people and organizations to take money and apply for funds to do things towards these events. Now, you could argue with the fact that why should we take the money and do events? I would say, why not? Because the money is there, other communities are taking it, and they may be doing the happy clappy celebrations. What's stopping you from doing something that's actually going to be more strategic, more targeted, more exposing with the funds that you get?
Well, there you are, giving it more exposure. There's lots to be done. Let's just have a little bit of detail here, by the way, because it's quite interesting to note that the total paid out since end of November 23 to the Windrush, £75 million. Okay, so that's a total paid to claimants through the scheme. Has over 75 million has been paid. The number of claims, 2,000 claims had received payments. You're fully aware, of course, we all have to be, that there's a 2,000 claims had received payment. It's not saying how many claims have gone in. And then there's also people who can't be bothered to claim, right? Feeling that we're never going to get the money, so on and so on and so forth. You know, people to have those.
Sorry, can I just say something? I know people that have applied and they applied justly by the rules, but they were refused, which is what they do with everybody. But then, as you said, there are some people that are just can't be bothered to push past that. They're like, you know what? I've just taken all my time to apply for this. You come back and you refuse me, I can't be bothered. And that's where people get away. Because they do that. They do that first round. They just say, no,
they refuse you deliberately.
Push. You've got to push because there's a part of it which is for people that are second generation or that came, you know, and it's those kind of levels that they're trying to also not pay out, but they deserve that money because their parents paid the price.
Well, that's the thing, and we're getting to that. So the compensation scheme was established to compensate individuals. And I think the terminology used here is wrong. See, because I did go to school in this country, so I understand how the English language is used. It says the Windrush compensation scheme was established to compensate individuals who suffered losses and or impacts because they were unable to demonstrate their lawful status in the UK. But the truth of the matter is, it's not that they were unable to demonstrate their lawful status, like the onus was on them. The government destroyed all the information. Come on. So your information was there. The government destroyed it, wiped it clean, and now it's for you to demonstrate your lawful status. That's a bit back to front, sideways, up, down, and
there was also a section in there where they were saying they've changed it, they've switched it up. There was also a section in there that was saying that you have to prove that you had hardship. Not they didn't have income, it was hardship as a result of not being recognized or something. And that is where a lot of people applied for and then didn't get it. So they have switched it up.
Yeah, of course they have, but it's not hardship. Nigel, was you saying something?
I'm just agreeing with TMJ. You know, the parliamentary ombudsman, this is September 2024, really not a few months ago. They published a findings called Spotlight on the Windrush Compensation Scheme. And they discovered that the scheme, this Home Office scheme, is making wrong decisions and refusing payment to those who are entitled to it.
Well,
imagine. And you see, the thing that bothers me is, you know, we've got young black kids in Miami, across London, across England, and, you know, in the back of their heads, they've seen their uncles deported.
Yes.
They've seen their parents, their grandparents suddenly lose their job, not entitled to benefits, left penniless.
Yeah.
In 2024, a few months ago, still, while the government's still changing railway lines to the Windrush, we celebrate this contribution, yet they can't actually do the decent thing and actually make payments to those who are rightly claiming. It's appalling. And again, it's the silence from the MPs that really bothers me, because I think of the post office scandal. Constantly, we have members of the House of Lords, the House of Commons on TV, interviews, how awful this is. I don't see this. And I also wonder, and that's why I wish they'd do a real documentary and drama. I wonder how many people, when they got the letter from the Home Office way back saying, sorry, you're not British, we're going to deport you. How many went to their MP and said, help? And how many MPs said, sorry, I can't do anything about it?
Well,
that would be really revealing.
The first question is how many went to the MP?
Yeah.
Oh, Pinky, you there? You said something?
Yeah, no, I was going to say just how they killed Cherry Gross, isn't it?
Yeah.
Through the same immigration.
And that's why I was saying, like, I like, you know, because, you know, of course we celebrate this, the contribution, of course we celebrate it, but there's something also about when they talk about Windrush this and celebration in Westminster Abbey and we're going to change the overground line. It's this sanitizing of a...
Yeah, they're going to change over and spend money there rather than give the money to the people.
Yeah, exactly. And the statue at Waterloo. I mean, they both didn't land at Waterloo.
Right, and that's the thing, so they're sugarcoating it.
Yeah. And people still, that's the parliamentary ombudsman, an independent body, is saying that the Home Office, but why is this not on mainstream news? So there are still people, after years, suffering for a gross injustice.
Well, I don't care about the suffering partly because some of it, why do you have to be suffering necessarily? Not necessarily they've taken away some of your wealth. Because it's saying that minimum payment, every close family member who suffered an impact can now receive a minimum of 10,000. Now, it not because you're in hardship. That's just money owed to you for the damage they done. Why do you have to be in hardship to receive the money?
And
you might be doing all right.
The real scandal is these are a people. Look at the history. I mean, look at it.
Yeah, they've done the work. They've
genocide shipped across the world like chattel, and they can't even recognize that. I mean,
but we've, the Windrush generation have done good work in the country. I mean, you go in the hospital, you look at all them nurses, and you look at the bus drivers, because the employment rights Lisa just mentioned, with the bus boycott in Bristol and all the rest of it. They brought employment rights for everybody, everybody's benefit. Come on,
they're
now.
The most gracious, humble, kind-hearted, warm people you could ever meet in this city. Really original. I mean, they are just such lovely souls.
But it's like they want people to see black people. We're not going to beg. They want people to beg. Oh, show hardship. Shut up! Why have to show hardship? You robbed me. Give me back my money. You see, that's as simple as it gets. You robbed us. Give us back our money. Every close family member who suffered an impact can now receive a minimum of £10,000. So what that means is you've got to turn it into the English language, don't you? Suffered an impact. They want you to write a whole story, about what the impact was. It's got to make them feel like, oh, you suffered. Okay, we'll give you the. So you're begging. I mean, shut up. We're not begging. You robbed us. Give us back our money. Don't make us look like idiot. And see, that's what they do. See? And then you have to get a bit left side with them, and then they say that you're left side. See, and then they want to lock you up. It's robbery. That's what call it what it is. It's robbery. Don't sugarcoat the foolish. It's robbery. You robbed us, and don't make us have to beg for the money. Give us back the 10,000. How much? 10,000 for a minimum of 10,000. So now they want you to beg even more. Oh, I lost this and this happened and that. They want you to tell such a sob story. And then imagine that. You tell the sob story and then as you say, then they refuse you. So how do you feel now? Not only were you robbed, now you've been embarrassed. Because you come out of your whole airs of, what your losses were, how you felt, you put it all in writing, sent it to them, and then they turn around and say, oh, well, they don't even say, they're not giving you the money. That is adding insult to injury, and that's what they're doing. It's a strategy, and they continue that strategy until eventually nobody wants to bother to apply for the funds. And then they've got this whole sugarcoating where they're really spending the money, making it look like they paid out to the Windrush generation. They cared. What? They put a station, a statue. Oh, they put it in the museum. Oh, look, they came, but they were robbed. I bet you go to the Maritime Museum, not telling that story. We, the British government, robbed these people, Theresa May, and all the we destroyed their paperwork, deliberately put them into hardship. And when they're in this hardship, we're asking them to come, and I call it begging, to beg. Oh, we suffered hardship. You see my point? And that's why a lot of people don't want to bother, because you can see it for what it is. You can see it for what it is. Nigel, talk to things.
Just the last thing I'm thinking, because I'm thinking about young black kids that I know and help and things, and it's like we know intergenerational trauma. But what the state, again, is not seeing that this generation, who did not come in the Windrush, the generations down the line, they see all this happening in their families and their communities. We're just adding more and more, as TMJ, othering, discrimination. We're just adding more to that sense of hopelessness they're getting. They're never going to get a council flat. They know the statistics are against them when they go for a job interview.
Council flats out.
Into this whole, it's just really unconscionable, really unconscionable, because it is affecting the young people too, because this chatter is in the back of their heads. They know what's happened to their uncle, their cousins, their aunts, their grandmother. They know it.
Well, there you have it. There's a play called The Windrush Betrayal. I think, is it called And Still We Rise? I think that's called. TMJ has just put it in the chat. Apparently, it's a
No,
phenomenal show.
sorry. My response and Still We Rise was, despite all what they've done and all what they're trying to do, all the no entries, all the roadblocks, all the discrimination, and still we rise as a community. That's what I was saying as far as that's concerned. And then as a separate comment to Sophia was saying that it should be called Windrush Betrayal. And I was saying I went to see a play called The Windrush Betrayal. It's not out now. And it was superb. It was by the same people who did oh no, it wasn't. No, but it was around the same time as there was the Black Wall Street play. It was around the same time as that, but it was really good.
Would this be the play here? Mark Gray, Windrush.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and there's a book as well about it. I got a book as well around it. It's really good.
Yeah, this is an interesting play, by the way. The write-up is on and can be found on The Voice online.
He's a Seventh-day Adventist.
Yeah, I think it's from November of last year.
He's quite rooted in history.
Now, it was a play. So the thing about it is, this was November 2021. So a play it can be given birth again if enough people inquire about it. Yeah. So I would encourage our listeners to head over to the Voice online. It's Mark Gray, Grey, Windrush the Betrayal was the play that he did, and you can find more information out there. It's a story that has to be told, and it has to be told in different ways from different people because we're not beggy. We're not there to beg. And the whole idea, council, as you mentioned about council flats, you're not getting that anymore. It seems like that ship has sailed. So black people, see, what you want to think about, you want to buy your own house. You can buy a house, of course you can. Houses aren't, see, people get scared with the big numbers. Houses aren't as expensive as you might think. And some people get quite creative. I knew a young lad, he's a teacher, isn't it? And he was down here. He went up north, same teaching, right? With the money he was making teaching up there, he was able to buy himself a house up there. So sometimes you might have to, the game has changed, so you might have to shuffle around to put yourself into a position where you can play the game a little bit better. And it's just amazing that we're in this time now, being robbed alive, robbed in plain sight. We are being robbed in plain sight, and by the way they're making you have to apply to get that little bit of money, it's like they're laughing at you. Do you see? They caused it. It's like they're laughing at you. Oh, look at them. They have to, look. Let's see how this one's good. It's wrong. It's just so wrong. Now, interesting, Nigel makes a mention here. I'll bet, remember how the Brits were paid to take in Ukrainian refugees? Once they have been here a few decades, there will never be a Ukraine scandal. They'll be naturalized and not victimized in any way because they were white and in the minds of the English look like us. Now, that Ukraine whole drama situation is a whole nother thing. But they'll be adopted into the British society and there won't be no scandal. There won't be no noise. They'll have just been adopted in quietly. That's what will happen. And you just won't hear nothing of it. And that's how it works. We're fully aware, Nigel. In this country, we're fully aware. We do pay the skin tax. We do pay the skin tax. That's what we call it. It's the skin tax. The color of our skin comes at a cost. And as TMJ said, and still we rise. See, we're still here doing good things. Just amazing. Absolutely phenomenal. That was a Windrush. We had to give attention to that. The Windrush National Vigil is, so we're going to joke up in, we'll talk about it more next week. It is in Brixton on the 6th. I think today's the 4th, so the 6th will be Sunday. Time is pressing. We got more to discuss. As you can see here, one of the other things that happened is quite interesting, this, isn't it? British boarding schools are eager to open in Nigeria. Now, what a story that is. Why would the Brits be so eager to open a boarding school in Nigeria? Of all places, why does Britain want to go to Nigeria? Is it for British students to travel to Nigeria to get better educated? Or is it so that Nigerian students in Nigeria can go to these British boarding schools to get educated? It's a whole conversation. It's it blows your mind when you dig into the weeds. But you know what it is? It is what it is. Look, Sis D says to brainwash the population. So she's already thinking, yeah, they're in there to bring their teaching to Nigeria rather than Nigeria coming here to learn. Let me see. Tim J, come in, talk the things. This is just crazy.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick up on that. I think they know that Nigerians have got a culture where they send their children here so that they can go to the boarding schools here. Could it be that they want to purify their boarding schools here, and rather than sending your children here, let's organize something in Nigeria so that your children don't have to come to our school?
So they don't even have to come.
Could it be? Could it be?
And we'll still charge them money.
Yeah.
So what we'll do, we'll take our school into Nigeria and take the money right there in Nigeria. Why let Nigerians travel here?
And I bet it'll be a different curriculum as well, because they can't differentiate from the curriculum that they're teaching in this country because they've got their own school, their own children going through it. But right. I bet in Nigeria, it will be tailored for the community in Nigeria.
So another form of racism. We know racism exists. It's what they call the institution. It's in the system. It's endemic. We know it exists. So they're going to take their racist ideas and go out there.
Institutionalized, Joseph.
There you are. They're going to take that bad boy and go out there. And you know what? We'll keep the Nigerians there. So, oh, no, you don't need to come. So then because of student visa. No, Nigerians, we don't need to give you student visas now.
Yeah, for the rich Nigerians.
Yeah, we don't need to give you that no more. You can get the same education right there. 10,000, that's all. It's cheaper because you don't have to travel costs. You can do it right there in your home country and still pay us the 10,000. Anyway, I'm sorry, Leisha, your hand is up.
This is why I think they're doing it. Nigeria has one of the youngest populations in the world.
There you go.
So education is going to be a big business for institutions to go to. If you've got an aging population, you're less likely to go to university, aren't you? But if you've got a young population, they're more likely to want to go to university, particularly in those regions where education is highly valued, because it means that there's a means to escape from or improvement of self if you value education. So as one of the populations where I've looked up, says I've Googled it, and it's not really good to always Google because sometimes Google is not always correct, but it says about 70% of the population are under 30 years old and 42% are under the age of 15 in Nigeria. That is so young. That is, and the thing is that Africa has got the youngest population in the world, and the West are getting older because in Africa they're having more children. They're having larger families. And in the West, in Europe and what have you, we're having less children, which means that we're going to have a larger population of people. We're going to have a less workforce, smaller workforce. We're going to have an Asian population where we need a workforce to keep them going, to help them. Okay, keep businesses going. So where can they go and farm them? They've got to go to where the youth are, the younger, and that is to go to countries like this to educate them, to potentially bring them over and work. You've got to
as workers.
Yeah. Well, this is it. We're all in here to work, aren't we? At the end of the day, we're all taught. We go have education. We're all taught really to seek employment, not to become entrepreneurs or anything like that. You're taught to go out there and do what you say what you do, put your hand up, get up early at a particular time, go to school for a certain period of time, have a lunch break, and you do that at work. You replicate it at work. They're going there because it's a business opportunity. That is the reason why they're there in the area.
So to brainwash the Africans, the young Africans, hey, we taught you, now come to our country, because that's what they told the Windrush generation. Come to our country, you'll get work. You see it there? And then the whole scandal is unleashed on them. Come on, it's just a cycle now, isn't it? Just framed in a different way. Nigel, your hands up, part the things.
Yeah, but don't forget in Nigeria, and I'm quite connected to Nigeria, 63% of the population live under the poverty line. So the people these public schools are targeting are the rich, corrupt elite. Part of the people who enable neo-colonialism. It won't be the poor Nigerians on the street or in the villages. And it's Charterhouse, it's these public schools that are going out there. And if you actually look at that, it's the scandal of the chutzpah, I want to say.
They'll be like Kemi. They'll be like Kemi.
Slavery. These public schools, Eton, Charterhouse, Harrow, look at it. They made a fortune through slavery.
Well, they know what they're doing.
And yeah, but the problem is there's on social media, like, I follow because I'm really big into Afrobeats. So I get a lot of DMs over the years from Nigerians and eventually I need some money. Okay, just forget it. There was one guy, aka Gocho, young guy, in rural Taraba State, never left his hometown. Earned £10 a month working in a local supermarket. But I realized this guy's got talent. So I encouraged him and he sat exams, passed with flying colors. And just 2 months ago, we got him a scholarship through the state government to go to the Nasarawa State University to study English literature and language. He's 22 today, by the way. Happy birthday, Ehigocho.
Congrats. That's
so
a shout out.
And from a really poor background, but with so much talent, he will never get to one of these schools, never. But actually, it's really interesting today on Facebook, his university, Nasarawa State University, there was a speech by the professor of education actually calling out this inclination now for these private schools to implement foreign curricula. And one thing I've been so oppressed about this university, because he's studying English literature and he passes me his assignments, they have totally decolonized the curriculum. Every single book, novel, poem, play by Nigerian authors. I'm thinking, yes. And what these schools in Britain want to do to make money from the corrupt, and don't forget, 99% of the elite in Nigeria do not pay tax. Statistics from the Nigerian government, don't pay tax. They're corrupt. And that will be the kids who go to these public schools and they will have an English curriculum. This is not, as that professor said, the way to make a really equitable Nigerian citizenship. It is not the way.
Yeah, but Brits want to go in there, they'll give them their teachings, and then obviously the people then get into power with gratitude to Britain for having taught them. And so they now want to have relations in terms of business relations with Britain. I mean, this is what they do. They get in early, innit?
They will not know anything about Nigerian literature. They'll be studying Dickens and Hardy and Shakespeare. They'll be studying things like David Livingstone discovered the Victoria Falls. All the mythology in British curriculum. This is a bad thing. They're actually, again, recolonizing Nigeria by recolonizing their minds of the elite and making them less connected to the people like Ehigocho, who's got so much talent. And thankfully, the state government saw that he's got talent, is giving him a proper education. But it really makes my blood boil. It's this neo-colonialism now from wealthy public schools in England who made their fortune on the slave trade. Google it. It's there. Charterhouse.
It's all there.
All of them.
All of them.
All of those elite
And they're now
schools.
going out to recolonize Nigeria, but actually, tapping into the wealthy elite that don't pay tax and actually don't care about people like Ehigocho. And there are millions like Ehigocho with talent and dreams and aspirations. And the British want to come in with their schools. No, it's just not right. And actually,
they do it because they have money.
They'll get away with it because the Nigerian government and the state assemblies and the governors of every state are just as corrupt. That's the tragedy.
Well, everyone's in everyone's pockets for different reasons. If you don't know the reasons, then you won't understand how it all works.
And there's so much talent there. Trust me, so much talent.
And of course, Britain can bring about these schools out in Africa because they're in touch and contact with people above who they're obviously in cahoots with, and they got these plans. I mean, it's bigger than it's a big deal, and the effects of it is seen 20, 30, 40 years down the road. See, so what we're experiencing now was a discussion between various people 20, 30, 40 years ago, and now we're in it. We're living it. So you know what they were talking about because, hey, what you see happening around you, that was the conversation. Look at this. Nigeria already has a proliferation of private schools, but high quality, internationally recognized education within the country will appeal to many parents, particularly those who wish to preserve their children's cultural identity. So in other words, not having to send them away, they're schooling in Africa so they maintain their cultural.
You see what upsets me with this woman? I mean, I don't know the woman. I don't want to point at her personally, but if only people like her put their energy into looking for people like a Higocho, whose parents could never afford to send him to an international school. Never. If she only put her time and energy into looking around all these towns and villages in her country, instead of wanting to help the elite, so she gets more naira in her bank account. Sorry, I'm not impressed with these people.
Well, here you are. Here you are. I was going to say the same thing, Nigel.
Yeah.
She's probably being paid.
Yeah.
For her comments, and that's why she's supporting the cause.
I'd love to meet someone like her. I'd love to say, honestly, you will get so much more satisfaction finding the ehigochos that are around every rural town in your vast federal republic. You will get so much more satisfaction. I promise you.
It's so interesting, this point here, the cultural dilemma, which extends to the growing conversation around LGBTQ issues, same-sex relationships, and public displays of affection are illegal in Nigeria, and homosexuality is not openly discussed or promoted, unlike what's happening with the curriculum in the Western countries.
Distraction. Total distraction. We're talking about education of the millions of Nigerians who cannot access this level of education. They have to state schools. I wish Charterhouse would actually pay some reparations to Nigeria and say, we will fund your state education system. Why are you bringing up LGBT issues? Irrelevant. These kids are at school to study. They don't need this, what is it called?
Yeah, but they do that to the kids in school in this country.
No, this is nonsense. A total distraction.
Of course.
This really upsets me. This woman, I really would love to meet her. And I feel like I'm going to go back to this page, Google, and start an email conversation. Because I honestly, even if on her sideline, as a little sideline, she would do. No, I don't want to say what I do because it happened by chance with it. But there's so much talent out there. And these kids just need someone to mentor them and push them, and they will fly. They will fly.
Yeah. Now, interesting. They say there's several reasons, but behind the growing interest of notice how they describe the schools, prestigious British schools in opening campuses in Nigeria. Several reasons. I mean, I would bet money that it's being promoted out there as the next best thing since sliced bread. So, of course, people are going to want to invest because it's going to be an investment. You invest in your kids. Who wouldn't? And think that, hey, yeah, let's send our kids there to get the British education because the British education is considered to be better. And here we go. And so the cycle continues. What would it take to break the cycle, to be fair? What would it take to, Mr. Brooks here, Nigeria has an incredible reputation for producing driven, high-achieving students. Yeah? He's the Mark Brooks, Department for Business and Trade Export Champion. So, it just makes you wonder what these people are really, really up to. Again, 20, 30 years, you will know. Interestingly, the exchange rate in, the Naira, £1. It used to be 500 Naira to a pound. Now it's 2,200 naira to the pound. I mean, the naira is not worth anything. So, and then the Labour government recently imposed 20% VAT on private school fees. Isn't that a tariff? But
I've got an idea for Champs and Giggles. What you think? You know the people who are behind the reparations campaign, which is absolutely just and fair. I'm actually thinking of reaching out to them. I don't know, but I'd need your permission on behalf of Champs and Giggles. And say we've discussed this, and actually we want to put public pressure, even on social media, for schools like Charterhouse, all these schools that want to go and be parasites and recolonize Nigeria. All the money you made in slavery, instead of opening schools in Nigeria for the elite and ignoring the masses to make you profit, why don't you consider actually setting up reparations and actually paying into the Nigerian, state education system and state schools? Really put pressure.
That'd be interesting.
Reparations, not profit for you.
Go ahead, see what happens.
Okay, come on. I mean, what does everyone think? I just feel like reaching, out to the reparations people and say, can we do something special on this, parasitic, profit-driven recolonization of Nigeria that's ignoring the majority of Nigerians, ignoring them. This is for the wealthy elite in Lagos and Abuja.
Yeah.
And actually,
go ahead. I'd love to see the response. Alicia, your hand is up. Heart the things. I'd love to see the response. It would be very, very, very interesting. Alicia, where you got? I'm sure I saw your hand. Look at this. TMJ, but wouldn't that mean that you'd want that revenue in this country to build on that youth power? Going to Nigeria is so that they do not come here. It's a bit of everything, really, to be fair.
No, because it's the elite. It's the elite in Nigeria that will go to those schools.
Yeah, it's the elite.
They will be coming here backwards and forwards.
It'll become an aspirational thing, so the poor will want to go, and they'll save money. They'll get themselves in that school. Alicia, your hand is up. Talk the things.
Well, at the end of the day, this is business that they're dealing with, and
yeah, but it's exploitation as well. You can see it. It's exploitation.
You know what it is? It is business. It's going out there for the elite, educated elite, the way how with British curriculum, they're not doing to the masses. However, these people that they are educating, the elites of Nigeria, are going to be the next leaders of Nigeria. So there's going to be connections to those elites in the UK, British, who were educated in Britain. Hence the reason why there's a lot of wealthy people who send their children to these elite universities in the UK, because they are rubbing shoulders with the next leaders.
Well, here's the thing, and you'll realize the exploitation. There is exploitation involved. There's a different language that they're taught in these schools. It is a different language. There's a different understanding that they have compared to what you learn in public schools. And then you learn that from very young. And then, of course, you become the Kemi Badnoch.
Well, yeah, I mean, the day
they're asking for her head now, aren't they? Kemi Badnoch over there in the Conservative Party.
People go to university to build relationships with people. That's what their role is to do. At the end of the day, that's what you should be going to university for, to build relationships with those who, networking for the rest of your life with.
The connections you make. By the way, let me just say, we're on Rock Solid Radio. We're on so many others, Rhythm Connection, Slam Radio. We're on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Champs and Giggles, the logos as you see behind. Each and every week we do the same thing, talk the things, put the world to right, at least give some understanding from, as I say, it's history, news, views, and reviews from a Black perspective. You're not going to see it on the BBC, ITV. You're not going to see it there, but you come to Champs and Giggles, tune in, and that's what you hear. We have to say bye to our radio listeners. Of course, those in the room can continue the conversation. It's been a marvelous conversation. We've covered a lot of ground. We really, really have. But again, to the radio listeners, because I know my time's up, we say goodbye and tune in to the next show. Talk the things, Champs and Giggles. Each and every week's history, news, views, and reviews from a Black perspective.